Crimes against women are also expected to feature prominently when crime statistics are released tomorrow. It's estimated 1,000 women are killed by their partners each year in South Africa. According to a recent study by KPMG, responding to gender-based violence have cost the country 28.4 billion rand. Joining me now in the studio to discuss this survey is KPMG's principal consultant, Lisa Gahan. Lisa, good morning. Thank you very much. That's a lot of cost to the economy. Are those figures correct that we just used now?
Those figures are based on a study that we've now done for South Africa, and I think one of the most important highlights of that study is actually this is a minimum estimate of the true costs of violence against women in South Africa. Within South Africa, the data that's needed to do a full comprehensive cost study just isn't there currently. So what the total figure is really just a minimum of what we anticipate the true cost to be to the country.
In the absence of the data that you said is not available, how did you measure these costs?
So what we did was we worked on some global models that have been used by other countries, and in particular KPMG in Australia did some work for their National Council Against Gender-Based Violence. And we looked at the data that was available within South Africa and other research studies that had been done by academia. We looked at government data and civil society data. And so what we're able to do is come up with this partial estimate that really underscores kind of the true scale and scope of the issue.
Okay, what was the objective of the study and who are you targeting here?
So I think the moral and the ethical imperative to prevent violence is very clear and very evident. And what we wanted to do was provide an additional perspective. We wanted to provide the financial dimension to help government and policymakers to be able to make decisions around funding various programs. So we know that social development issues in South Africa are significant, and government has a limited pot of money with which to deliver services and programs. So what we hope is that this study really shows that investment in programs that prevent and respond to violence against women is actually a social investment. So as the government starts its new strategic term and begins to implement against the National Development Plan, the government has set goals of 5% growth each year. And what this study is showing is that growth is really eroded for as long as the culture of violence persists at the level that it does within South Africa.
How are we doing compared to other countries? You mentioned Australia earlier, that you've done similar studies in Australia.
It's very challenging to compare countries because violence against women is governed by a range of factors around culture, history, religion. So it's not always easy to do an apples-to-apples comparison between countries, but what we can do when looking at other countries is look at what their lessons learned are in terms of programs to address violence. And we found in the UK as well, there's a study that shows that for every £1 that is spent on government prevention and response programs for violence, there's actually £6 that's saved to the economy.
Okay, now we'll have to work out those figures for South Africa because we just have minimum numbers. Now, the way forward now, I mean, you've been able to find out some trends here in South Africa in the study beyond the cost to the economy of gender-based violence. What would be the best way forward from what your recommendations are coming up with?
I think it's really creating the business case for change. So really helping government and civil society to understand that it's a strategic investment to prevent violence against women. And I think globally we've come to a point now where this is at the forefront of policymakers and media and civil society's attention. So we're seeing very recently the Indian Prime Minister using his biggest speech of the year to talk about the rape culture in India. We're seeing very recently in the US the NFL football player and the video of him abusing his girlfriend. And so I think now we're at a point where governments and civil societies and society as a whole is recognizing that violence against women needs to be addressed. So you're hoping your study will be used by policymakers, at least in South Africa, to formulate better strategies going forward on how to eliminate gender-based violence? Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, no, thank you very much. That's KPMG's principal consultant, Lisa Gahan. We're going to take a short break now. When we return, we bring you more news.